Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee to order for Monday, November 20th, 2023. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. As always, I'd like to thank our television production crew here at Dartmouth High School for recording them and recording these meetings, and also for Dartmouth Community Television for broadcasting them on their channel as well as the YouTube channel. Roll call, please. Ms. Genther.
Chris Oliver?
Here.
Elizabeth Coughlin?
Here.
Shannon Jenkins?
Here.
John News?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Our chair, Kathleen Amaral, is feeling a little under the weather this evening, and she won't be able to join us tonight. So I will be filling in. Just a reminder, please silence any cell phones, computers, or other devices. At this time, the committee has allowed a few minutes, actually 10 minutes, for any comment on tonight's agenda. Anyone wishing to speak about any item on tonight's agenda, we ask you to come up to the podium, introduce yourself, and limit your time to 3 minutes. Thank you. As I see, we do not have any takers. We're going to move right into approval of our regular session minutes and executive session minutes for November 6th. I'll take them separately.
Yep. Motion to approve the regular session minutes of November 6, 2023.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Jenkins on the regular session minutes of November 6th. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 4-0. Chair will entertain a motion for the executive session minutes November 6th.
So moved, Mr. Chairman, with the stipulation that they be held until the matter for which they were intended is complete.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nunes, second by Dr. Jenkins on the executive session minutes for November 6, 2023. Any further discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 4-0. Excellent. Next up on tonight's agenda, we have our student representative report, and I'm sure there are several things to report out on. So good evening. Great to have you.
Thankfully, we don't have anything from any students, so that's always good to hear. So we have the football game, the Thanksgiving football game, which everyone's excited for because this is something that everyone looks forward to. We're gonna have the band there, and I'm sure everyone knows that we did a very good job at our last competition. Mr. Nunes knows. We made it to semifinals and Grand Nationals, which was our first time ever going, so just adding that to the experiences, we're all very grateful, and getting to do that for the first time is just something we're all very happy to be able to do, and probably won't get to do it again for a while. So we're all very proud, and right now we're looking forward to starting our indoor percussion season and indoor winds, which we have auditions for coming up this week, and everyone's very nervous, but I know it's going to be fun, and I'm very excited to see what our new show is going to be. And that's all I have.
That's great. Thank you very much. What a wonderful accomplishment to be able to say that you made it out to nationals. So do any of my colleagues have any questions?
No, I just want to say we're proud too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It was quite the experience.
Yeah, it really was.
Can I just add that I had quite a few of my family members and friends reaching out to me saying how lucky I am to be the superintendent in a school district that has a nationally renowned band, and congratulating me. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Really proud of all of you, though. It's a lot of hard work. We've seen you here night after night after night. Sometimes you're here later than us.
Yeah.
And we just want to congratulate you because your hard work paid off.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're all very proud of the end result.
Yeah.
We didn't make it to the finals, but even just saying we got to make it to semifinals, it's just like, we've never done that before, so that's a big accomplishment in itself, so thank you.
Oh,
It's
thank
huge.
you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
you.
And I know you have work to do, that you're
Yeah.
still catching up from your trip, and so I know that you're going to sneak out for this evening and get some of your homework done.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Perfectly fine with us.
Thank you,
Have a great
Annabelle.
night.
Thank you.
Happy
You too.
Thanksgiving.
See you tomorrow.
Next up is our consent agenda. We have 3 items to take up tonight. We have the DMS PTO fundraising activity request, DHS PTO fundraising activity request, and the DHS hockey team fundraising proposal. You should have all received a copy in your packets. Happy to have any discussion at this time, and if the committee's pleasure is, if you're okay with this, we can take it as a one whole.
I'll move approval of the 3 fundraising proposals.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Dr. Jenkins and a second by Ms. Coughlin.
I just want to add, these are all great and fine, but I just want to say for the DMS PTO A+ on your report, I like the, the income, the expenses, overtime, the balances, really well done.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Anything else? No, just thank you to all these 3 committees for fundraising for the Dartmouth Public Schools. We couldn't, have a lot of these programs without you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 4-0. Next up, under old business, FY25 preliminary budget update. I'll turn it over to Dr. Saban McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. I'm going to, in a minute, just pass it over to Mr. Kiley. I just want to say first how grateful I am to have him at the helm of this discussion, and how important it is that we have his not only expertise but institutional knowledge to help lead us through what is certainly shaping up to be a challenging budget season for the Dartmouth Public Schools. We have come together as a team. We've been meeting in subcommittee, as you know. We're meeting with some of our folks at Town Hall and our own internal team, and having some really, I think, thoughtful discussions about the way to approach this budget season in a way that protects the most important assets that we have in our school community, and that's our students. And so over the next few weeks and months, we are looking forward to coming to you and having those discussions and being very specific about why we think we need to do the best that we can, which I know you are doing that. I mean, I'm certainly aware of your commitment, but we really need to present to the school community, school committee, and town folks here in town about the importance of protecting our school community. And so Mr. Kiley's going to talk more about some of the specific items that we are handling right now or that we're working through.
Thank you, Dr. Saban McGuire. So, to give you an idea of what we've been working on, we had a meeting, a second meeting with Town Finance Director Gary Carrero and Town Administrator Sean McInnes last Monday. So Dr. Saban McGuire and I met with them, and it is clear that there's a significant gap between our student needs and what the town is projecting at this point. Following that meeting, had what I thought was a very productive budget subcommittee meeting last Tuesday, in which we talked more about the details and the reality that that gap represents. So, following that, we've continued to fine-tune our budget proposal, and in preparation for presenting you our budget on December 11th. The next school committee meeting. So that's our plan. Our focus in that presentation is going to be, remain on advocating for our student needs, and not focused on cuts and the difficulties, really illustrating for you why we need what we need. So that's what we're going to be presenting to you on December 11th. So that's where we are at the moment. We have another meeting scheduled with Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Carrero next Wednesday at 3 p.m. And I don't know if it would be possible, I believe a member of the select board are going to be attending that meeting. So if perhaps a member of the budget subcommittee could attend and help, help us with our support of our cause, it would be, I think it would be helpful. And we'll keep the dialogue going and find out a little more about where the town overall wants to, how they want to approach this.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. We had the opportunity, Dr. Jenkins and I, we attended a budget subcommittee meeting this week, I believe. Earlier in the week, there was some fruitful and thoughtful dialogue. Terry Ham from the FinCom was there as well, besides Dr. Saban McGuire and Mr. Kiley. It's certainly concerning, at the very least. We are in the early stages, but my takeaway from it was that it's really tough. The sustainability factor of the budget we have in front of us, it's not going anywhere. And the revenues generated by the town is not keeping up with our budget. So there's certainly some work to do on both sides, I think. I'm only speaking on behalf of myself, but after what Mr. Kiley shared with us, I think this meeting, I'm happy to hear that we're having a meeting next week, and someone from the select board will be there as well, because right now, I think we're pretty far apart. And I think that the words that or the word nobody wants to hear needs to have a serious spot at the table, and that is override. That is an override. I don't really see any other way out of it, to keep the services in place that we have. But I'll stop talking, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Jenkins or someone else for their thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that we had that conversation, and I think we need to start seriously having that conversation, because it's clear, we need to meet the needs of our students. I think we, as a committee, also have to think creatively. I know you are, but we do, about ways to do what we can to help the town side out. And, we're sitting on some substantial savings accounts. We don't want to use those for recurring revenues, but it has been pointed out to us, we don't turn back money for capital, so can we use some of that money, for instance, school choice money, to pitch in for some of our capital needs, because the town does rely on, free cash to fund capital. So I think, we have to have a conversation about that, but we have to have a conversation about, doing everything that we can to pitch in before we ask the town and the community to pitch in as well.
This is going to make for interesting discussion. There is no doubt about it. Number one. Number two, everybody to keep in mind that if Mr. Kiley is giving us a budget December 11th, that's about 6 weeks usually, give or take, ahead of where we normally are. And these are extraordinary times, and we knew this was coming. So, we're going on a lot of best guesstimates at this point in time that we can come up with. And, the tough thing is we're going to be trying to make decisions without any formidable revenue numbers from the Commonwealth type of deal. I mean, yes, we'll have House 1 around January 20th and that type of deal, but we won't see Ways and Means till April, Senate in May, and town meetings in June. I mean, we're flying by, literally, the town, not only us, but the town is going to fly by the seat of their pants with this budget type of deal. And then, do what we have to do and then, roll the dice. So I'll be curious to see, I thank Shannon, Chris, Dr. Saber McGuire, Mr. Kiley, for your work on this. I know it's not easy. In all seriousness, all the building administrators and directors, because, we just got started in school, 10 weeks ago, and, oh yeah, by the way, we need you to do next year's budget. I got to do a 25 budget, and we just started 24. So, thank you for all that work that is in there, and, whatever I can do, glad to help.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes. Anything to add?
Thank you to the subcommittee for the work you're doing, and Mr. Kiley. I can't see that the state is going to be a big help down the road,
No.
even though we don't have the numbers. And I do know that override is not a pretty word in this community. So when we see the final numbers next meeting, and after we've had the conversation with finances from the town, then we have to see what the difference is and exactly what it would mean to each individual taxpayer. And not only keep in mind, but impress upon the community how important the schools are, how important our children are, and to not just say no without thinking that through.
Agreed. No, thank you. Yes.
Chris, one last thought, I'm going to kind of piggyback on what Ms. Coughlin said is, depending how this flows out, and do we go to, does the town vote, not the town, but the Board of Selectmen vote to put an override on and that type of deal, is maybe we have to look at getting some of our real estate brokers in town on board, because they've always used the educational system in the town of Dartmouth as a selling point. What do I get, come and live in a town of Dartmouth? You get an excellent school system type of deal. And that's obvious as to what's going on, especially this year with everything, the way our students have performed. But, get them out there, beating the bush and, with their contacts to possibly help us along. That may be something we could tap into.
Sure. No, I think everything should be on the
Any help is going to be
table.
needed. It's
Everything
all going to be needed.
Everything should be on the table for sure, and like we were saying at the budget subcommittee meeting, is that we really need to, I'm more than willing to work with the town, to some extent. But I think at the end of the day, all options after we present the budget, or I'm sorry, not after us, but after Mr. Kiley and Dr. Saber McGuire presents the budget, I think we need to consider all options. All options should be on the table. And it is my understanding, based on our meeting, that the budget that you'll present to us will already be tuned up or fine-tuned to some extent. Is that fair to say, Mr. Kiley?
We've made some adjustments in our preliminary, calculations,
So the budget that we'll be hearing on the 11th,
Yes.
right? The 11th, would you say that is a level services budget?
It's below level service.
So the budget that you're going to be sharing with us and presenting will be below level service, just so we're all on the same page. Okay. And then we'll take it from there. I look forward to hearing that presentation, and I'm not sure if you're able to attend that meeting.
When is it again? I'm sorry.
The 11th,
No, the
No,
the subcommittee.
select board
the
meeting.
select board meeting.
November, well, it's not a select board meeting.
it's with-
So
okay.
it's a meeting of us, with the town administration, and a select board member, I believe, is going to be in attendance, representing.
What's the
the
date
board.
and time?
It's the 29th. It's next Wednesday at 3 PM, I believe.
I can try to make it.
I should be able to make it. I will Well, Chris and I can
We'll talk
communicate. I will put it on my calendar. I'll try to make that. Is it town
Okay.
hall?
It's at Town Hall, yes.
And there's no harm in both of us attending, right?
No, as long as we don't have a quorum, we're good. Yep.
Okay, anything else under
Thank you for all your hard
ordinary
work.
budget?
Thank you.
Agreed, thank you. Next up, under new business, proposed meeting dates. Everyone should have received in their packets, meeting dates from January 24 through June of 2024. Do we see any concerns, Dr. Jenkins?
So I can't make the 8th, which I think Mr. Nunes might also
Yeah,
be
I-
unavailable.
I'm, you know, I got some things going on, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make the 8th.
Sure.
And I had, it's before I knew Dr. Jenkins wasn't going to be here, I had a brief conversation with Dr. Saber McGuire this afternoon, because we have that as the proposed date for the school choice public hearing and vote, and was just wondering if we could move that to the 22nd, January 22nd, if that's okay.
I don't see any issue with that. Does any of the committee members have an issue?
It's fine with me.
Okay, thank you.
So we're gonna move that vote, hearing and vote to the Monday, the 22nd.
Great, thanks.
So there's a potential for 2 committee members not to be here on the 8th, at least 1, if not 2.
Correct.
Um,
If we need to have 2 meetings in January, though, that's like the only
Those are the
Monday
only
we
one,
can do it,
that's the only way it
right?
works out.
Right.
Well, no, you go to the 29th.
I would say,
See what
let's keep it on the agenda, let's keep
Keep
it
it, yeah.
on the 8th. and
Okay. So,
If you find that the agenda's light, we can always look to cancel it.
Okay, we'll keep you updated.
Any other dates? Yes.
so the only thing that I will note is I will no longer be here in April, May, and June. So oftentimes we sometimes hold off on scheduling those until we know who's there, or you can put them on the calendar, so whoever's here knows that already and is planning for it.
And maybe, just as an FYI, well, no, I don't know if it will work, but as we get to the June 24th, you know, is that a potential for, a 5 o'clock start versus 6, only because we're into our summer schedule. But again, we can cross that bridge.
We're jumping the gun a little
I'm
bit. with
way,
the 5 o'clock start.
I'm way ahead, I got you. I'm just looking ahead.
Absolutely. Okay. So I think other than the school choice hearing and vote being moved to the 22nd, I'm hearing that right now everything is fine.
Great.
Okay.
All right, next up, under new business, superintendent's update, including a presentation on the McKinney-Vento Act.
Yes, so I'm going to start out with asking Laurie Denisio to join us along with Kimberly Redlin. You've heard me mention that we were fortunate to be able to hire Kimberly probably, I think, maybe 60 days ago. And I just want you to see that so we didn't make her up. Here she is. Today is her official first day, and I wanted to give Laurie an opportunity to introduce her to you, tell you a little bit about her background, and then we'll introduce the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Act, because again, I'll talk about that in a minute, but you're all set, Laurie.
So Kim is coming to us with 20 years' experience in special education. She has worked as both a district special ed administrator as well as a building-based special ed administrator. Her passions include substantially separate programming for students, MCAS alt, inclusive practices, and long walks on the beach. And I am very happy that she is here to help me out because we've been very busy downstairs, and I look forward to working with her.
Thank you. It's been a long 60 days, but I'm happy to be here and ready to start, so thank you.
I wasn't unhappy.
But you're happy.
I am happier, yeah.
So if you remember thank you, Kim, and welcome. I wanted to just remind you that we are discussing the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Act this evening, and part of that is in response to some of the challenges that we're facing, not only here in this community, at the state level and across the country, but I think bringing it home to Dartmouth is really important for us to understand exactly what the McKinney-Vento Act, what it entails, what it means for us as a school district. So I thought that this would be a good opportunity for you to hear about some of the particulars that are connected to this legislation, or this law, I should say. So
the McKinney-Vento Act is federal legislation that was enacted in 1987. So this is not new. It's about 40 years old. And we'll start with the why. Why do we have this legislation? Why is this important? Why do unhoused families get these protections? And the answer is because these students are so vulnerable. These statistics were taken from the National Center on Family Homelessness. And as you can see, these children are more sick than your typical child. There's traumatic events in their lives. Often unstable housing also comes with unstable food sources and nutrition. And then there's a lot of mental health issues that go along with that. So for these students, school is their safe place, built by familiarity and routine. They also have access to services when they're in school: nurses, social workers, consistent meals, and adults who are there every day for them. So that's our why. That's why we have this legislation. So the McKinney-Vento Act, what it does is it defines homelessness as the lack of fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. It also establishes educational rights, which we'll talk about, for homeless children and youth. And it mandates a homeless liaison in every district, which happens to be me, as well as a state coordinator, and funds a small grant program. So that's what the legislation provides for us. So who is protected under McKinney-Vento? So lack of stable nighttime housing. That means children in emergency shelters, temporary shelters, living in cars, tents. Seasonal housing is also included in that. A big portion of these students are what we call doubled up. So they might be living with another family member, sleeping on couches, not actually living there, but just sleeping there due to circumstances beyond their control. It also includes unaccompanied youth and students in foster care. So when we talk about educational rights in McKinney-Vento, what we're really talking about is educational stability. That's a big sort of term that's thrown around when we talk about these groups of people. So educational stability refers to McKinney-Vento, students in foster care, migrant families, as well as families with military connections. So what is educational stability? Really what it means is that when it's feasible, the students continue attending their school of origin. The state sort of looks at feasible as if transportation is able to be provided within 1 hour. So for example, if a family becomes unhoused in New Bedford and comes to live with grandma temporarily in Dartmouth, that's feasible. It's feasible for those students to remain in their school of origin in New Bedford because it's a short ride. If a family becomes unhoused in Revere and is in emergency shelter in Dartmouth, that's less feasible because transportation from Dartmouth to Revere is not under an hour. So we would enroll them in our school district. Also, some students might be attending more specialized programming in their school district, so we don't want to mess with that. We might not have the programming to support them, so that's another reason they might remain in their school of origin. And if we are transporting students, that's a cost share between us and the receiving or the sending district. One of the other tenets of educational stability is that students are enrolled regardless of documentation. So if a student does not have a birth certificate or some important paper along those lines, that's okay. We get them in. We figure that out once they are there. We don't hold them up because of that. And then once they get here, students have access to what they need as far as services: Title I, special education, as well as participation in after-school activities and free school meals. And while that's true for everyone now, it hasn't always been. So some numbers. We know and we have heard on the news that the emergency shelter system in Massachusetts is maxed out at over 7,500 families. I believe I heard the other day that that includes approximately 6,000 students in school age. So last year in Dartmouth, there were 7 students who were attending our schools that were unhoused, but we were transporting 29 students to other districts. So at the end of last school year, that was 36 students that sort of fell in this McKinney-Vento category. This year, because of sort of changing trends in the emergency shelters that have opened up in Dartmouth, those numbers have flip-flopped a little bit. So we currently have 41 students who fall under McKinney-Vento, 26 of those being the newcomers that are in emergency shelters, and we have 7 students being transported to other schools. So again, it's not really that big of a difference. Last year was 36, and this year currently is 41. Again, that number could change. And how it works with educational stability is even if a family is placed in permanent housing in the middle of the school year, they remain with our school district to the end of the school year. So those numbers typically don't go down until the new school year begins. But again, not much of a difference. It's just sort of we're actually servicing more kids within our schools and transporting less. So before this year and sort of all the new things that are coming from the state, Dartmouth was not eligible for any of the McKinney-Vento grant funding because we just never met the threshold. But because of some of the other things going on in the state, there is more funding available. So currently, the supplemental funding is we are receiving $104 a day for the students in emergency shelters, which equals $18,000 annually. So that, you know, compared to our per pupil expenditure is a pretty good investment in children. Also, we are eligible for grant funding for more immediate needs and support. So that we have applied for that grant funding, and we're trying to figure out how to best serve these kids outside of school hours and what sort of supports they need when they're in our schools. And also, even though transportation continues to be a huge cost, the line item in the state budget was almost doubled this year, so there is more reimbursement for that piece of it as well. So that's my book report on McKinney-Vento. Does anyone have any questions?
Back down that end of the table, Mr. Nunes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mrs. Denisio. The grant funding for more immediate needs and support, what is that? Is that just a broad, or is there specifics for that $1,000 type of deal?
It literally says for more immediate needs. So right now, that grant funding has been applied, and again, we're looking at how to best use those funds. Is it for tutoring? Is it for after-school programming? How do we support these kids? We did purchase, again, because some of the students in emergency shelters are non-English speaking, we did purchase some, I think we talked about that last time, the pocket translators, so that's part of that coming from that money.
We're also, we've had contact with the Y, so we're trying to get some spots secured so that some of the students at the elementary level in particular can participate in after-school programming 2 days a week. So once we know, I mean, we're assured we're going to receive this grant money. It's just a matter of when. The other thing that we're doing is working with the folks over at the Quinn to see if maybe, the Quinn School, to see if maybe we could add some after-school programming, because we have a number of children who attend that school, a number of our newcomers, and that wouldn't just be for our newcomer students, that would be open to other students in the school as well, which we want that to be able to happen. We want our new students to have interaction with their peers. And so once we are assured that we've been approved for that money, we're going to be moving forward on some of those ideas. But again, paid for through that grant.
Okay, beautiful. Good, thank you.
So thank you for your presentation. I just also want to say thank you to everyone in the schools for welcoming all of our newcomers and all of our families. I've actually seen nice things on social media about kids really wanting to welcome the newcomers, extending themselves into learning new language, and really making an effort. So it makes me proud. The one question I've always had about McKinney-Vento, so we talk about, students have the right to stay here if they're temporarily placed here in October. Do they have a right to choose? Like, if you get moved into permanent housing in, say, February or January, I could see maybe if I found permanent housing, I might want my kids to start in that new school right away. So is it you have to stay here, or is it the choice of the family?
It is the choice of the family, and a lot of what's involved in McKinney-Vento is the choice of the family, but the umbrella of it and sort of the heart of the law is that educational stability. So
Right.
you have the right to stay,
Right.
but you don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure about that, how that worked.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point of clarification, because we have had questions about folks who have ended up in housing, and folks then believe that they have to go to that community. And as you heard tonight, that's simply not what the law states.
Right. But I think it's important to point out that the parents have a choice to figure out, because, knowing what's best for their kids. And for some kids, being in the same place and staying there for the year is important. But I know I moved one year with my family, and getting to a new place and meeting new friends where I lived was also important. So it's good that families have a choice on that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of variables to consider when
Yeah.
making those decisions.
Yeah. That's it.
No questions, great presentation. I think it's a good law. It really works for the students. And I'm happy there's some money that goes along with that to help us.
It's helpful.
But it really seems like it supports the students and helps them progress.
Yeah, I'll just say that I'm happy that this was a presentation this evening, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have probably, one, have never heard of the McKinney-Vento Act, or two, are not too familiar with what it is and how this is just another additional layer that school districts across Massachusetts have to honor. This is one of those nuances that some people don't even realize it. Going back at your numbers from 22 to 23, a total of 36 students in McKinney-Vento serviced. Is it safe to say that at least in the 22-23 school year, that the program was not self-sustaining as far as, because the way I understand it is that now that we hit that threshold this year, is that we're entitled to funds. Were we not entitled to funds last year?
Right, and what we were doing was paying for that transportation. And although that's a cost share agreement, it's still coming out of our budget. So yeah, we were putting a lot of money into that piece of it.
And is it safe to say that moving forward, that our eligibility could change again next year, based on if the numbers drop below a threshold?
I think it depends on sort of what happens at the State House level. Again, they have provided us with these opportunities for the grant funding and for the $104 a day. I think it depends on where that goes.
Right, and the $104 per day, that's directly connected to the homeless students, newcomer students who have been placed in the hotels. So that $104 a day isn't for who you would typically identify as your students under McKinney-Vento.
Yeah.
Great. No, I thought this was very helpful, and I think it just goes a long way to educate the general public about just something else that the Dartmouth Public Schools does. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
All right, report of the chair. That would be me.
Well, I still, I know, I still have a couple other
Oh,
things.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Dr. Jenkins looks and she's like, I know she has more.
Look
Just know her.
the look said there was more.
I just have a couple of quick things under teaching and learning. I just always want to keep the entry planning, on our agenda, because I want to update you and the public regularly on where we are on that. And I'm happy to say that if anyone's been in my office, they know that I have a board that really sort of just outlines what that entry planning process is. And it's not a check-the-box kind of process, but at the same time, I can't help but get certain enjoyment out of checking certain things off that list. So again, well into November here, and I'm excited to be thinking less about entry planning and more about planning, although I am just going to interject the fact that the budget is a challenge is spoiling some of my, my plans in the way that I had thought through this winter season and what we would be doing. So it'll be a combination of both. But we're moving forward. So as far as personnel, again, I don't have to mention Kim Redlawn, even though I did, because she's here. But remember, substitutes, we're always looking for you. So if you have some additional time on your hands and you would like, remember, substitutes, it doesn't have to be every day. It could be 1 day a week, 2 days a week. It's really up to you as the person how that would fit into your schedule. And then as far as where we are with climate and culture, again, as part of the entry planning process, I'm really pleased to be able to share with you that I've been able to visit every PTO, and regardless of the size, because it depends on the school, the size of the PTO, but regardless of the size of the PTO, I have to say the folks that are sitting on those teams are just doing amazing work and supporting schools, supporting teachers, supporting kids. So it doesn't matter if there's 5 of them, they're doing the work of 100 people. But I also want to take this opportunity just to remind folks that it's never too late to get involved with your school's PTO. They are definitely always looking for an extra pair of hands. It doesn't mean you have to be at every meeting, but even going to a meeting or 2 throughout the year keeps you connected, and you can gain a better understanding of what the PTOs actually provide in terms of enriching experiences for kids and really supporting teachers in ways that we wouldn't be able to do if those PTOs weren't in existence. So again, recruiting for PTOs. So if you're available, please just check in with your school. And then as far as the superintendents, I think in the past I've called it a PTO, but it's really not meant to be that. I'm hoping in January to be able to move, now that I've met with all of the school PTOs, I'm looking forward to putting together in January, what I think would be more like a superintendent, parent, or family advisory council. So I'm hoping that we're going to be ready to launch that in January. So you'll be hearing more about that. Again, you've already mentioned it, but I can't say enough about the amazing, warm welcome that our newcomer families have received here in the town of Dartmouth. And Dr. Jenkins, you said that you were proud, and I feel that same sense of pride in being here new in this community and watching the way that our students have been welcomed. And congratulations to all and thank you to all those folks out there in the schools, because of course they're the ones every day who are interacting with our new students and our new families. Principals, again, even if we have a principal who, even though they don't have newcomer students at their school, they're still doing things to help to support those families. Again, just saying thank you. Last time I think we had a school committee meeting. We were all looking forward to all of our teams. We're in the playoffs. Our band was headed off to the Nationals, and we should be so proud of them, regardless of the outcome. It was really, truly a successful season for all of the teams, for our cheerleaders here, for all of our sports teams, for our band. This is really something to celebrate, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the winter season brings. I'm sure there's going to be plenty to celebrate. So I want to thank I'm going to see I don't know if Ben's here tonight, but Mr. Crisafulli, I think I said his name right. I stole from his Monday minutes, so I know he likes that to be mentioned. So I get all the information that I need to share with you. But lots to celebrate here in Dartmouth, and really looking forward to seeing what the next season brings. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saban-McGuire. Great presentation. And there certainly are lots of things to recognize here, for sure. Do any of my colleagues have anything to share? Mr. Nunes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to piggyback what Dr. Saber McGuire was saying, I'm just wondering, I mean, I won't be here, but at the December 11th meeting, before everything kicks off for the winter, if it's possible to have the captains, the drum majors, the head cheerleaders of all the different sports activities just in to be introduced and get our congratulations for a job well done. I mean, every single one of our sports teams, you know, made the playoffs, the band with what they did. You know, the cheerleaders into competition, you know, winning different competitions that they were in and such, just to say, you know, thank you, job well done, you know, good luck. And those of you that participate in winter and spring sports, congratulations and good luck with those. So,
Yeah?
you know, I mean,
I think that's a wonderful
it'll take 5
idea.
or 10 minutes and
Sure.
type of deal. I mean, if by chance somebody's got a game that night, because again, we're into the winters, I understand that, but, you know, you can get a majority of those, you know, the sports here, or even if the student can't make it, student or student captains and such can't make it because of a game, if the coach is here, just,
We
again,
could invite the coaches as well. I think
as
that's a
well,
great
just
idea.
just to put, you know, just to say thank you to them. So,
Sounds good.
okay.
Anyone else?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'll leave with happy Thanksgiving to, I hope, all of our faculty, staff, and administration, as well as our parents and students. Have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Take this time to enjoy it with your family. One of my favorite holidays, for sure. And other than that, that's really all I have. Next,
Dartmouth beat Fairhaven.
that's right. Is Fairhaven still in the tournament?
Yeah, they're going to the Super Bowl. They won. They beat
Okay.
Hudson. They beat
All right, so
Hudson on
Dartmouth
Saturday.
beat Fairhaven.
So Dartmouth beat Fairhaven. So hey, we'll see.
Sounds good. Our next scheduled school committee meeting is Monday, December 11th. At this time, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Always in order, never debatable.
I will second.
Motion by Mr. Nunes, second by Dr. Jenkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.